Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Let's get you up a little bit here. How about like that? So today we are going to do a sharpening stone test. All right, now the test that we're doing has nothing to do with how the stones sharpen. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to find out what effect freezing has on sharpening stones. Now, you might think, well, Joe, why on earth would I freeze my sharpening stone? Okay, well, you might not freeze your sharpening stone on purpose, like I'm about to do, but if you're a guy like me, okay, now first of all, I do an awful lot of handyman, right? So I do an awful lot of jobs away from the house. You know, you show up and you know, you got a window that's busted out, so you got to chip away the old glazing. Sometimes you have access, or sometimes you remember the chisel, sometimes, you know, you just end up using your pocket knife. And so, you know, you chisel all that glazing out, and then you find out you need a new edge to be able to, I don't know, cut whatever else. So you end up either sharpening your knife on a sidewalk or a handy rock or a paving brick or something like that, or if you keep a sharpening stone in the pickup truck, then you just grab your sharpening stone, you know, your travel sharpening stone kit, slather on some mineral oil, sharpen your knife back up, and you can get back to work. Or let's say you're up at elk camp and your elk hunting buddies, you guys know who you are, have been waiting all year for Joe, the knife maker, to show up to elk camp so that he can sharpen your knife because you haven't got around to sharpening it by yourself, right? So of course, you know, me being Joe the knife maker, you know, and that's happened to me a couple of times. Now, instead of sharpening on a handy river rock or something, I go to the truck and I grab a real sharpening stone with real mineral oil and everything just like the setup I have in my shop. Go ahead and sharpen up the knife in a couple of minutes, hand it back to that person, chide them, say, hey, you know, you really ought to learn how to sharpen yourself, you know, all that kind of stuff. So let's see, the last, and I've mentioned this a couple of times in other videos. In my truck, I keep a Norton crystalline coarse fine combination stone, okay, and some mineral oil. I think I also have a fine India in there just in case I wanted something that would do a little bit, you know, a little bit more of a polished edge. And I know in my car I have the same deal, you know, a Norton crystalline coarse fine combo, because you never know when you're going to go to the in-laws place for Thanksgiving dinner and you're helping to, you know, do the prep work, and you go to cut something up and every knife in their drawer cuts about as well as you know, a dull butter knife. And so having a proper stone to be able to sharpen that, you know, really speeds things up. So anyway, so since I store at least a couple of stones in the truck and in the car and in the wife's truck, you know, all that kind of stuff, and I don't ever take them out, those stones get to experience Wyoming's weather, okay? So here in Cheyenne, you know, lately, I think we got upgraded, I guess you would call it, on our growing zones. So we used to be a zone 4, and now we are a zone 5, and that happened sometime in the last 5 or 10 years or so. And I want to say that zone 5 means that you don't get below -10 or -20. I've seen it colder than that here and in Wyoming, but we'll just roll with that. And it just so happens that this freezer right here, you know, this is the new house, and the guy that I bought the place from, he was moving across country, and he left this freezer with the house. And it just happens to have a digital readout right here. And it says -6, okay? So -6 is pretty close to that, you know, -10, -20, somewhere around there. So this ought to give us a pretty good idea about what's going to happen to these sharpening stones while they're out in the truck in the middle of winter, okay? Now, this is going to be a comparison test. What we have is it is a silicon carbide stone. Now, whether it is a Norton or, you know, somebody else's, but it is a coarse, fine silicon carbide oil stone, all right? So, now to make this as worst case as possible, we're going to put this stone into this freezer bag, and then we're going to fill the bag with mineral oil, my normal sharpening oil. And we are going to hope and pray, I'm not really a praying man, but we're going to hope, that the bag does not develop a leak while it's inside the freezer. Actually, you know what? I think as soon as I get done with this, I'm going to go grab a Tupperware or actually, no, I have this Tupperware here right now. Just don't tell my wife that I'm using it like this. Okay, so we are putting this sharpening stone in this baggie full of mineral oil. Okay? Now, you wouldn't leave this in your truck, you know, like this to freeze on purpose. But these stones will be oil soaked, you know, and the ones that I have out in the truck, they are oil soaked. They're wrapped up in a rag, you know, to keep them clean and to keep everything else a little bit oily from, you know, anyways. So worst case, this is going to have plenty of oil to be completely saturated when we freeze it, all right? Okay, so this, like I said, this is a stone, or this is a type of stone I have in my truck. The other one that we're going to do is a King 1000/6000 grit water stone. And this is kind of where it's kind of a funky way for them to make that zipper. But this is where this came up, and I've said it several times that I didn't, okay, so for me, water stones, I use them pretty much just for straight razors, all right? Straight razors and anything that I need like a really polished edge on. And I'm a toothy edge kind of guy, so water stones, I don't use them very much. Not that there's anything wrong with them, it's just that that's not my preferred, it's not one of my favorite edges for general use, you know, cutting rope and leather and wood and, you know, chipping out the glazing on windows and cutting carpet and, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? So, so I don't typically use a water stone all that much except for straight razors. But that was a reason that I've given several times about not keeping a water stone in your truck or your car, because what would happen when it freezes? Now, depends on where you live in a part of the country and how cold it gets. You know, you may have not have seen the effect that freezing water can have on concrete, rocks, steel, I mean, pretty much anything, right? Okay, you get a rock, like say a boulder, and you get a crack in that boulder, right? And then over time, as it rains, the rain gets down inside that crack, and then winter comes along and freezes that water. That water can actually split a boulder in half. I mean, boulder, you know, I mean, we've got a lot of rocks in this country. I mean, big ones up at like Vitavu, you know, piles and piles of big rocks. I mean, rocks as big as this house. And water will split them in half. I mean, you can see it. I mean, what else would have split that rock in half like that? So, and then spalling, you know, concrete, when you get concrete that absorbs water and then it freezes, it can, what they call spall, and it flakes off, you know, pieces in the surface of that concrete. So, I always thought, okay, well, if you're taking a water stone, now granted, you wouldn't leave it in a baggie soaked in water, you know, in your truck. You would take that stone and you would, you know, stick it in a Ziploc baggie, you know, with, you know, just bottle of drinking water, you know, to soak it. Sharpen up your knife or your chisel or whatever, and then you would probably shake the stone out, you know, and before you stuck it back in your truck. So that stone would still have some water in it. So we're going to do worst case scenario again on this one. So what we have here is and this is the one that this is my current King 1000 6000 grit water stone. I mean, it's the one that I've been using when I wanted to use this particular stone. You can see that it's got, well, no, we've got a glare, but no, that's clear. I mean, you see it's got dirt and everything on it. I mean, it's seen some use. You know, I mean, it's my current King 1/6 sharpening stone. So what we're going to do here, and I've had it soaking in that Tupperware there for about the last 5 minutes or so. well, maybe 10 minutes, or 15 because we're 10 minutes into the video. So we're going to put that in the baggie. And then we're going to fill the baggie up with the water. So this is going to be worst case. Worst case scenario on these sharpening stones, because you wouldn't leave your sharpening stone in a bag of water in your truck. But we just want to see what's going to happen, right? Okay, so we've got the silicon carbide stone in the mineral oil, and we've got our water stone in water. All right, now we're going to stick this whole thing in the freezer. And we are going to put it right here on a wire shelf, so it's got plenty of airflow all the way around it. And then we're going to close that up again at -6 Fahrenheit. And we're going to leave it like that until tomorrow. We'll go ahead and shut the camera off, and tomorrow morning or whenever I get out here, I'll go ahead and we'll open up the freezer door. We'll pull them out. We'll see what they look like. I mean, the water stone's going to be frozen in a chunk of ice. And then the oil stone, I don't know if the mineral oil is going to be, if it's going to be frozen, if it'll be froze hard, or if it'll be just gelled up at this -6 degrees. So we'll take a look and see what they look like frozen, which probably won't be all that interesting. And then we'll set it on the kitchen counter, let them thaw out, and then that'll probably take, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, something like that. And then we'll come back and we'll pull them out of the baggies, and then we'll wash them off, and then we'll see what we've got, whether we get some spalling, whether the stones are cracked. Well, these are things that I can kind of see happening. Some spalling, the stones being cracked. In the case of the 1/6, or maybe even the coarse fine, maybe the stones have separated from each other, you know, because they're both combination stones where you have one stone of one type and another stone of another type, and they're, you know, glued or fused together. It'll be really interesting to see. Like I said, this is going to be worst case scenario. You wouldn't have your stones like this in your truck, but it'll be interesting to see, and well, it'd be interesting to see what happens. So now we got to wait all freaking night long before we get it. I mean, this is exciting stuff, y'all. Okay. Again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and we will see you tomorrow. Hi, YouTube. This is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. You know, I guess I don't need to do that because I'm planning on stitching these 3 videos together into one. So anyway, yeah, so we put the sharpening stones in the freezer yesterday along about midday or so, and I think it's about 8:30 this morning, and honestly, I just can't wait. I mean, I was going to go a full 24 hours in the freezer, but I guess there's no real reason that we need to wait 24 hours. We can go ahead and look and see what's going on right now. I did peek in there, I want to say about, no, it was on the way back in from the shop last night when I came in to cook dinner. So I want to say like 6-ish or so. And I did peek in, and the water in the water stone Ziploc bag was frozen. The mineral oil didn't look like it was frozen at all or gelled up or anything like that. So, yeah, let's get to it. Let's take a look, see what happens. Again, this is, well, you guys know. Okay, so we got the mineral oil one first, or the oil stone. Okay, so let me get behind you here so that, all right, so the oil is still liquid. You know, it's not even really gelled. Yeah, it might be kind of gelled. See how it kind of globs up over the top of the stone. Of course, just holding it for that amount of time right there is thawing it out considerably. Now the stone itself, I am not seeing any cracking or anything like that. So, but that's about all that we're going to be able to tell right now. So what we're going to end up doing is taking these and putting them on the kitchen counter and letting them thaw out, and then we'll actually take them out of the bags next to the kitchen sink so that we won't make as much of a mess, or it'll be easier to clean out. Okay, so now the water stone. Okay, so that is 100% frozen. And you know, I see some marks. I don't know if, let's see, if we turn down some. I'm not used to shooting here in the garage, shooting with the camera, so I can't tell if, I mean, there's this one spot right up in here that kind of looks like a crack, but I can't tell if that's just the water or if it cracked the stone. This would be the 6,000 grit side. You can definitely see there's some cracks in the ice. Now whether those go, you know, into the stone or not, I don't know. The two sides look to be still together. Of course, the ice could be holding them together, you know. All right. So, we have got a frozen water stone, and we have got a gelled up oil stone. Now again, this is a gelled up oil stone. Now again, this is going to be worst case scenario, you know, so you know, you would not store your water stone in the Ziploc bag full of water. You know, you would use it or you know, soak it in, you know, maybe you carried around an extra jug or something, you know, to soak this with before you used it to like sharpen up a chisel or a friend's knife or something like that, you know, working from the truck. And then you would take it out of the water and shake it off, you know, and maybe wrap it up in a paper towel or a cloth towel or something like that. And that towel would probably tend to suck some of the moisture away from the stone, hopefully before it froze, you know, in your truck that night if you were working out in the wintertime. The silicon carbide stone, with that mineral oil not even really appreciably gelling up at the -6 that freezer is at, that right there is a big reason why I keep, you know, this type of stone in my truck and in my car, because, you know, the weather really isn't going to hurt that mineral oil. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stick these in the kitchen on the counter, go ahead and get some work done, and then probably about lunchtime, they ought to be thawed out by then, and then I'll fire the camera back up and we'll take a close look, see if we got any cracking or spalling or any damage to the stones. All right, we'll see you along about lunchtime. All right, that's right. Since I'm stitching these together, I don't have to do the introduction. Okay, so this is the third video. Are you guys ready to see what happened to these stones? I'm afraid we're going to be a little bit disappointed, or maybe, you know, relieved. While I haven't looked at them all that close, I did peek on them a couple of times throughout the day so far. It's about 3:30 to see if the ice had melted yet, and I didn't really see anything right off the bat. So let's start off with our silicon carbide stone. And let's kind of move the, now that you saw my smiling face for the non-introduction type of deal, let's get you right up in here to this sink. Right there, okay. Okay, now we'll zip this up and we'll go ahead and throw this mineral oil back out in the shop and use it to, you know, put it back in the jug and reuse it for sharpening. Okay, so the stone itself doesn't look, okay, let's see, how are we going to do this? I'd like to bring it here. I'll just tilt you over the sink like this and hold you with my chest. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like we had any sort of freeze damage at all, which, you know, you would kind of expect that because that mineral oil didn't, you know, it didn't really freeze. I mean, it got sort of gelled, you know, as in like it moved slower, but it never crystallized, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. So there's yeah, so there's no damage on this stone at all. So let's go ahead and just wash it off. And of course, I just finished out the dish soap. So yeah, so I'd be really surprised if there was any kind of damage to this stone at all. Not any freeze damage, of course. I mean, this is kind of an old, beat up half of a stone. You know, that's still got plenty of life left to it, but I don't think there's any reason that we'd need to even do like a sharpening test or anything on it, because like I said, that mineral oil never crystallized. Okay, so I need to put that there and then get a taste of our afternoon cup of coffee. All right, now this is the exciting one. Now, the reason I picked this particular stone was because it's one of the stones that, you know, I recommend an awful lot, at least for straight razors. I believe this is the stone that Murray Carter used to use before he went to that new, I can't remember the name of that new sharpening system that he recently went with. You know, you can get these stones off Amazon for, I want to say like $30 shipped. You get two sides, so, you know, it's a handy stone, but then that also gives us a chance to see if freezing will affect the bond in between the two stones. You know, it's a great performing yet inexpensive stone that it wouldn't break my heart if I busted it for this test. And it's a stone that, you know, that I use anyways. Okay, so first of all, let's see. Okay, they still seem to be, yeah, they're still both together pretty good. Now the fine side, you know, the fine side still looks the same as what it did before. I think in that last video, the cracks that I saw were just cracks in the ice, because I'm not seeing any cracks in the face of the stone at all. But the 6000 grit side, you know, it doesn't soak up water like the 1000 grit side does. So, and it would make sense because 6000 grit would be a little bit more dense stone, right? Okay, so now let's look at the 1000 grit side. Well, I tell you, if there's any damage at all there, it's so slight I can't really see it. And there's no cracking. There's no difference in sound, really. Let's see if it feels the same, or if a knife blade feels the same. You know, it feels pretty good. Let's go ahead and take, this is my little pattern welded necker that I usually carry as a belt knife. Let's go ahead and dull it up. And then let's do something that I hardly ever do, okay? I mean, like I can't even remember the last time that I put a 6000 grit edge on a working knife, but let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so I knocked the edge off on the end of the stone, and then I brought it to a burr going one side, brought it to a burr going the other side. Now we're going to go ahead and kind of refine that 1000 grit edge, lightening up our pressure. Fewer number of strokes each side. I mean, I'm not counting strokes or anything, but you know, generally speaking, going down in number and lightening up on our pressure. Okay, now let's go to the 6th. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to go over here. That reaching around that tripod was getting to be a pain in the arm. All right, so now let's bring it to a burr on the 6000 grit side. There's something in the stone right there. That must have just been a booger or you know, a little bit of grease from a fingerprint or something, because it's gone now. Now the 6000 grit is where my fingertips start losing the ability to feel the burr. I mean, if it's a real heavy burr, I can feel it, but as that burr gets lighter at 6000 grit, my fingers have a hard time picking it up. Now see, I can feel it pretty definite here, and then it kind of tapers off up in here. I mean, it's still there, but I can feel that it's tapering off and getting so light that I can't feel it. Okay, so we established the burr on both sides. Now let's go ahead and prep this burr and get it ready for removal. Okay, that looks pretty good. Can't really feel much on either side with my thumb, so let's go ahead and shear that burr off. About double our sharpening angle, very light strokes. And let's see what we got here. Can you see my arm there? Yep, it's popping hairs all the way around. Maybe you'll see hair in there or not. And you know, you kind of hate to waste a good edge, so you know, I guess I'll just use that one until it dulls up. So yeah, so it looks like, all right, let me put all this down here and set you back up over here. Okay, so it looks like, you know, my concern with storing a water stone in the truck or the car or any outdoors type of place, you know, so you know, your work truck, your cars, you know, an unheated shop, anything like that where things usually freeze. I guess we can't really say that, hey, it's perfectly safe to do it, but we can say that in this case, or this particular time, I took this King 6000 grit stone, soaked it, stuck it in a Ziploc bag, and froze it at -6 Fahrenheit overnight, and it came out okay. So so you can, or I at least did it once and it came out all right. So and there's nothing on this stone. I mean, it feels good in my hands, you know. I mean, I don't see any cracking, don't feel any crumbling, and it felt good. You know, the knife felt normal, you know, on the steel, so that means that there probably isn't any like spalling that you can't see with the naked eye. I think if there was, you would feel it, you know, through the knife. The knife would tell you that there was something wrong with that stone. And this one felt, you know, just normal. I mean, usually the only thing I sharpen on this is straight razors, and I don't have one handy, I just have a knife, but it feels good enough. Okay, so I guess if you're a Waterstone type of person, you know, or if you like using a polished edge and you like using that particular Waterstone, you know, it looks to me like it'd be okay to keep it in your truck or your car. But now we know. All right, so yeah, that's pretty interesting. Again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery, and visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.